Hello and welcome back to the Genesis Edge product line video series. My name is Charles Johnson, lead trainer and technical engineer at Lynxspring. Today we're going to be talking about graphics. And graphics are probably the most important thing to a customer because that's really what they see. They don't really get to go into Workbench, whether it be Pro Builder, whatever, whichever flavor. They don't really get a chance to go in there and see many things. They just usually open up a web browser from their phone or tablet or PC, and they look at the graphics that way. Now, it's really important to have things laid out in a manner that make it easier for the customer, especially access to schedules, histories, you know, adjusting set points, stuff like that. So today, we're just going to be creating a couple of graphics. One, we're going to be creating a header just to put on our graphic. And then we're going to actually be creating the air handler graphic itself. And we'll probably add a screen for set points as well, just because we could have so many points. So the thing that you may want to do is you may want to use your own, you may want to use your own graphical interface. Some people have an HTML5 overlay that they use, which is fine. If you want to use the internal graphics built into Niagara, that's also great as well. Some people use BAS custom graphics, um, for their images because they look more flashy and realistic. And again, it's fine. It's really a personal preference, but I'm only going to be using the graphics built into Niagara, and there are actually uh, four modules that we could use. The first is a Kit PX, and this gives us the ability to add bound labels, other type of action buttons, hyperlink buttons, etc. Then we have the Kit PX graphics. Now this is actually from QA Graphics when Tritium purchased that graphics package. Then we have the Kit PX HVAC. This is actually the original graphics package from Niagara. So when Niagara had their version called R2, it actually used these types of graphics. And then we have the new to N4, which is the Kit PX N4 SVG. So these are SVG graphics, which stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. This means that they can actually be resized without pixelation at all. And some people may not necessarily like these, but I actually like using these a lot. I think that they're kind of sleek, and I think that they're pretty easy to put together. So uh, first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our own header to add to our graphic. Now, the reason why I'm creating a header, even though I only have one air handler in here, if I have another XM module, which is an expansion module that we're going to be adding later on in this video series, I could have a whole separate air handler there. So that way I can apply the same graphic to a different device without having to redo anything or retype out a header bar. So on the config space here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to new folder. And I'm just going to name this header. Now, the beauty about graphics is you can feel free to create whatever type of graphic you want, whatever color scheme, whatever type of font you want to use. You leave it up to you. Make sure it is your standard. It's really important to create your own flair because you want to know that when a customer goes to your site, and you may have multiple sites, that it is from you specifically. So after we created the folder header, what we're going to do though is we're going to add a view to this header view. And we're going to go ahead and right click on the header and go views and new view. And I'm going to name this header PX. Now, I suggest that when you're working in PX files, that you're actually working in the component itself that has the PX view rather than the PX itself. This is especially important if you are doing what we call relativizing graphics, which means that as long as the component has that specific, object, it will actually populate it on the graphic. So we're going to do a couple things here with this header PX file. So in this PX view, and PX actually stands for presentation XML. So this is actually an XML file, and if you wanted to, you can actually edit this entire thing in XML, in an XML editor if you wanted to. I don't recommend that you do that, but that is something you absolutely could do. Now, by default, out of the box, it is 1000 by 800. Now, what you may want to do is actually change this to 1200 by 1080, and that gives you more of an HD feel. You could increase or decrease this based upon your customer specifications. And for now, we are going to select none for the scale. After we're finished, though, we will go ahead and change this back. Now, for the graphic, I'm going to keep it white. I could change it to whatever I wanted to, but white for me is what I'm. White's actually what I want to keep it to. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, or the next thing I'm going to do after I've adjusted my scaling, I'm going to go ahead and do something which is a bit strange. When you create a view, a scroll pane is already added, which means that based on how large the graphic is, it will actually scroll. And I don't necessarily want to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this canvas pane, and I'm going to select cut, which now just brings me to the scroll pane and this content. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the scroll pane. I'm going to actually delete it out of there, which just leaves the root. And now I'm going to go ahead and paste that canvas pane back. So now I don't have the ability to scroll at all. As a matter of fact, this header that we're going to be creating is actually what we're calling a PX include. So we're going to be including this PX file into other PX files that we create. Now that I have created my scroll pane, or I've gotten rid of my scroll pane, I'm going to go back to my canvas pane, and I'm going to select the width to be 1200 and my height to be 100. So now it brings it up here. And because this is going to be a header, I actually am going to change this to, let's say, whatever that is. Maybe we'll choose something else. We'll go with, what do we want to do here? You know what, let's just do goldenrod. Don't know what that really is, but that's the color I'm going to choose. Okay. So the first thing that I would like to do now that I have this, I'm going to add a couple things to this canvas pane. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add the outside air temp sensor to my I'm going to add the outside air temp sensor to my PX, and I'm going to add the outside air humidity. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in my nav tree, I'm going to tunnel down to my Onyx network, my air handler, and my inputs folder. I'm going to drag the outside air temp sensor out. Now, when I do this, the Make Widget Wizard comes up, and this is actually the recommended way to actually do this. And so with the Make Widget Wizard, we can actually bind this point to an animation or a label if we wanted to do so. I am going to select Bound Label, however, and I'm going to make a display name label. I'm also going to check the status box and select color. Now, the differences between all these is that If the status changes from normal to anything else, whether it's overridden, fault, disabled, stale, alarm, it will go ahead and give it a specific color. And now I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And now we can see that we have this, which is now orange, and then we have our outside air temp sensor. And I'm going to go ahead and move these over into the corner. Now, I'm going to change the OA temp sensor because this has now created a bound label and an unbound label. The bound label has a component bound to it, and an unbound label is just a text block. So I'm going to say OA temp, and I'm going to change the background to black, to change the foreground to white, and I'm going to change the font to Arial, bold, and 12. Now, this is what I like to do. Again, you absolutely do not have to do this. The H line I'm going to make center. And now I have my label. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a border around this here. And by doing that, I'm going to right click, border, add border, and it actually adds a border to both of them. Now, the unfortunate part about that is I can't remove that border unless I remove the border from here, which is on the widget tree on the view pane on the right hand side of my PX. I'm going to do the same thing with the humidity sensor here. I'm going to create a bound label color, and I tell you what, I'm going to keep everything else the same here. And of course, I'm going to change and say OA humidity, background to black, foreground to white, Arial bold 12. I wish there were a way to have this kind of pre-selected, but there isn't as of right now. H align is center. And I'll go ahead and get that squared away just like that. Okay. Now, on the right-hand side, though, I'm going to add a couple extra things. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I want to add something that shows the current user. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and open up my Kit PX palette, and I'm going to add a couple of bound labels. I'm going to add 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to do a couple things here. On the one on the right hand side, I'm going to double click this. I'm going to change this to Arial and 14. And I don't think I'm going to do anything with the italics. I won't. I'll go ahead and select OK here. Now for this bound label, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to slot colon. And what slot colon does, it says I'm going to go ahead and take whatever the label, whatever the component I have here. And then it fills in that ORD for you. And now with this text, I'm going to add current user. So what it's going to say is current user. And I'm going to add colon /n, which is actually a carriage return. And now in this percent colon, percent period percent, in the percent, I'm going to do user, open and close parentheses. Select OK, and my status effect none. Now when I do this, it's just going to take the current user. I'll go ahead and put this all the way up and all the way down to center it. Now, this next one here at the bottom, I'll put it right here. I'm going to add the current time. I'm going to go ahead and keep it selected there. So again, bound label, slot colon. And now I just put time and select OK. And I'm going to do this Arial italic 14. Which now brings up the current time. And now I'm going to create a label that's going to display the name of the component that it is selected, or the component that it's under. So again, slot colon. This is one of the easiest ways to relativize something. And in here, I'm now going to choose display name, which means I'm going to take the display name of wherever this lies in the component. And now, of course, I made it header, but I made it very small. So I'm going to change this to bold, Arial, and let's start with 28. Let's see how large that is. Sure, we can make it slightly larger than that. Let's go ahead and make it 36. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select this pencil icon to save it and take a look just to make sure that this is exactly what I want. Yep, I have my current user here. I have my header, and I have this. Now, because I added the weather service to my PX page here, I actually could take this here and add the weather report to this. And I can go to Workbench View and go to Current Weather View and select OK. And bring that right there as well. Now that we have everything that we want, we now can go ahead and create our air handler graphic. The last thing I'm going to do here is edit the scaling and change it back to fit ratio. Now that when I go ahead and apply it in a new text, or in a new PX file, it'll go ahead and scale accordingly. Okay, so now that I have my PX for my header, I'm now going to go ahead and create an entire air handler graphic. And it's actually not going to take as much time as you think. So the first thing to do is right click on wherever we're going to be putting the component, which for me, I actually like to put it on the device itself, and go to Views, New View, and name this Air Handler PX. And now I'll go ahead and make this 1200 by 1080. Set the scale to none. And this time I'm actually going to keep the background as default. I still don't want anyone to scroll, so I'm going to go ahead and do what I did here. I'm going to cut, delete, and then paste. So now I don't need for scrolling, and I don't think I need to actually create a separate set point PX just because of how large this PX page will be. Okay, so I'd like to add my header first. And by doing this, I'm going to go ahead and go to my file space. And under my file space, I have a PX folder. It was created when we added our PX view. And now I'm going to take this header PX and drag it into my air handler PX. And now you can see that the header has or the px file or the px include actually has now taken the display name of my component in which it's under. So this allows me to can use my header over and over again among various components, and the title will change automatically. Now that I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and go to my kitpx n4 svg. And I'm going to go ahead and go to my ductwork. So here we can do quite a bit. We have the horizontal and vertical ducts as well as duct connectors and even airflow if we need them. So the first thing I'd like to do is go to duct horizontal long. And maybe I'm going to add a medium here too, just to make sure I get to add everything that I'd like. Now I'm going to go ahead and look for a T. So I'm going to see duct connector T up. Go ahead and get this here in the middle. And now I'm going to look for a duct vertical. We're going to do short here because all we're going to be applying is a damper. And then we're going to add a T down. And then we're going to be adding some duct on both sides. So again, we're going to go back to our horizontals. So we're going to go to duct medium here. And we're going to do a duct, actually, I guess a duct median here, right? And then the horizontal long. Now, of course, when you do this, the T doesn't show up. The T is actually behind. So now you can go ahead and reorder the top, bring it here, bring it down one more time. Now you also could just create your T's first and then your ductwork, which probably could be better in the long run. Then let's go ahead and now add ends left and right. So go ahead and duplicate these. And then add the right. Duplicate. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and select all these and get them in an area where I want. And now what I'm going to do is before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and add a layer, and I'm going to name this BG. And now I'm going to make this BG locked, which means that any layer that I make a BG, it's going to go ahead and lock it to the position in the PX file or in the PX page, and I don't have to worry about it moving. So I'm going to go ahead and select all my ductwork, and I'm going to go to Edit Properties, and I'm going to change the layer to BG. So now it doesn't matter, it will not move. So unless I have to move it, which then to do that, you go ahead and select the layer and go back to normal. I don't need to move it anymore. Now that I've added what I've wanted to add there, let's go ahead and add our components. I'm going to show you how to add some animations to your graphic. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my outputs. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in my econ dampers first. And when I do this, the Make Widget Wizard opens up, and now I'm going to select from palette. And now I'm going to select my Kit PX N4 SVG. I'm going to go to dampers, and I'm going to go to two-way. And I'm going to select OK. So now it has added a set of dampers that I need. As well, now I'm going to go ahead and bring them out again and go to and make a bound label. Go to status, which is color. And I'm going to make a display name label. So my econ damper, I'm going to make it Arial and 12. And it's center. Then I'm going to say econ dampers. And I will go ahead and make this center, make the foreground white, the background black, and make the Arial bold 12. I just like the way it pops. And now I'll go ahead and center where I want these to be. And when I do, I'll go ahead and right click now, border, add border. And when I click on this here, I'm going to do this and make pop-up false on my points here, or on my animation. And the reason why I'm doing that is because if I were to put this in live mode right now, it would actually take whatever actions that are currently on this econ damper, which I have emergency override. So I don't want them to actually override from the I don't want them to actually override from the animation. I'd rather have them override the point here. Now I also could add an action button and add my override and my auto here if I want to on my dampers. I don't necessarily like having an override button because it's easy to explain to your customer that you can actually just override from the text block itself. Okay, now that I have my econ damper that I want, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my relief damper. And again, from palette, hit PXN for SVG, damper. And I'm just going to go damper, let's see, where is the horizontal parallel? And I'll go ahead and make sure that is in alignment with my outside air damper, which it looks like it is. And now I'm going to go ahead and instead of actually bringing in my relief damper here, I'm going to go ahead and right click and duplicate. And actually before that, let me remove these borders. Really the last thing that you should do is remove you should actually remove the borders. You should add the borders last. Go ahead and duplicate this. And instead of saying econ damper, say relief damper. And go ahead and change this now to my relief damper. And now let's go ahead and add the rest of these now. We're going to go ahead and add our fan speed. So we're going to have our fan last and our chill water valve before the fan. So I'm going to drag in my fan command and go to fans, horizontal and right. And again, I'm going to make sure that the pop-up is set to false. And I'm going to select my chill water valve. In the same manner, so cooling two-way bottom, we'll say. Actually, let's say it's a three-way valve. That's fine by me. And again, change the pop-up to false. Now, if we had other filters here and whatnot, we can do that. Let's go ahead and add a freeze stat here. And we're going to go to sensors. Let's see, is there a freeze stat? I don't know. I've never actually looked at one. Sensors T-stat. Nope, that's around. Piping sensors, no. Low temp. Here we go. We'll do low temp. We'll do low temp top. See what that one does. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and add the freeze stat right here. Let's go ahead and add our mixed air temp here. And where is there should be an averaging. Yep. Temp top. Okay. And now let's go ahead and add our supply air temp sensor here. So that's going to be just duct temp. Where is that going to be? Duct temp. Huh. Oh, bulb temp. Here we go. Top. Now let's go ahead and add our OA temp and humidity. And really, we'll say there should be, yeah, duct temp, humidity top. We'll go ahead and we don't have a supply air humidity. We will do a return air as well in the same manner. Let's go ahead and add the smoke detector, sensor, duct smoke top. Actually, I guess that's really in the supply. We'll do it in the return. Then we'll add the high static. I don't know if there's one that's just uh, straight duct static anyway. Duct pressure. Oh, duct pressure alarm. Okay, yes, there is. Top. We'll go ahead and add that there as well. Then I think that's it there as far as sensors that we want to go. Now let's go ahead and add the rest of our points. And realistically, for these points here, we can just take this and duplicate it and go to bound labels. So add this here, duplicate. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a quick pause here to go ahead and finish the rest of our labels here before I add anything else. Okay, I have the graphic the way that I like to see it here. Make one more edit here. So when when you duplicate stuff, sometimes you have to be a little more careful. And when you're duplicating this, for example, this economizer here, it's still at 0%. So I'm going to go ahead and double click it, and I'm going to go ahead and find my economizer variable where I have it, which is going to be under network settings folder. And I'm going to go to my, click OK here, click OK. And now we see that it's disabled. So now I think I have everything here the way that I would like to see it. So before I save this, actually I'm going to save it here real quick just to make sure. I like to see everything here. Stop, fans and alarm, looks good. Okay, so now that I'm back here, just going to make sure, okay. We're going to go ahead and set the scale back to fit ratio and select OK. So now when I go here, it'll go ahead and actually bring everything in here that we need. So now this will scale no matter what we do, even in this view here. It'll go ahead and move the way we need it. If I put this in a web browser, it'll go ahead and increase in size or decrease in size based upon the browser. And even if I do this here, we can see now that it actually is starting to scale. So that's really it for graphics. That's all I have for today. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great one.